Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina. Martina, would you like to say hello?
Absolutely. Hello, welcome.
And we are your podcast hosts for everyday, ordinary, extraordinary women. We were inspired to create this podcast after pondering on this question. What would a world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Usually, we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody's losing. Depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. Those are usually the only two options, and neither of those make us feel very good. So here's our thought: someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from our first impressions. So we invite you, the listener, to go beyond your first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner in everyone if we're willing to look. And so today we are so excited to have with us Emily Gowor. Emily is joining us from Australia, and Emily is an inspirational writer and speaker and author of over 12 books, author of Find Your Purpose journal. She's a mentor and award-winning entrepreneur, and she is devoted to inspiring people to live an extraordinary life with deep meaning and purpose. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Christina, and Martina as well.
So introduce yourself. Tell our listeners anything you'd like to share about Emily.
Sure. Well, I mean, kind of captures it when you do a little bio of me. You hear that I love to write. So in my heart of hearts, I've loved writing my whole life. So I say I'm definitely a writer at heart. I was read to in the womb. I was writing stories and content when I was a little girl. I then started writing very deep and dark poetry when I was a teenager. That was my way. It was like therapy. It was my way of dealing with the angst of being a teenager and trying to figure out who I was. And then around 16, 17 years old, I'm now 36. So about 20 years ago, I fell in love with self-development. And that's where I think as a writer in the world, you find your thing, your topic that you love. And that gives me goosebumps because I love it so much. So they really merged together for me. So I'm definitely a writer at heart. My background story in a nutshell is that because I was going through those tumultuous times as a teenager, and I say I kind of fell through the cracks between school and life because I was trying to figure out, well, what do I want to do? And the notion of creating a life that, not only a life, but a life that I liked, that I wanted, and having a blank canvas of the future in front of me, that felt so intimidating. And I was really struggling with self-worth. And so the nutshell version of my story is that I had a near suicidal depression when I was about 19 years old, which actually of course turned out to be the biggest blessing because it set me on my whole path forward. And it was like a full, this is such a cheesy writing pun, but I think after 12 books I've earned the right to use it. But it was like a full stop between the previous sentence and the start of a new one for me. So I really started creating a new life forward from that point, and discovered my purpose, what I wanted to do, like brought it conscious. I kind of knew intuitively what my purpose was, but knew that I loved to write, knew that I loved self-development. And so when it became conscious, then I could start building my life around it. And so I see my rock bottom moment that I nearly gave up, but I decided that, deep down, I don't really believe that we're here to suffer on the planet. I don't believe that we are, life is hard and difficult. And I understand how people could make up their mind about that, but I don't believe that deep down, that's really what we're here for. I think we have a purpose and we have a gift, and there is an opportunity for us to thrive as we are being who we are in the world. And so I made that very important fundamental decision that I thank myself for every day, not to give up and to do whatever I could to create an extraordinary life. So of course, I love the work that you two ladies are doing, because I think, yes, extraordinary women, absolutely, creating extraordinary lives through the sharing of what we're here to do. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. I love to write. I love self-development. Life is juicy. Let's go. So that's me in a nutshell.
It's beautiful because part of what you're saying inside of, like, there usually is that turning point. Sometimes it's really big, and sometimes it's just tiny little, an accumulation of little things. or the last drop, right?
Yes, the
But
straw that
there
breaks
is
the camel's back, you know, that can happen
exactly
too.
there is that turning point where it's like, okay, no, that's not what I want. That's not where I wanted to go, and the courage it takes to go there. And thank you for being here. Now, let me just. If you could finish this sentence, if you really knew me, you would know. What would we know about you?
That I'm really deep. So it's a great question. I'm really deep. I feel things very deeply, and I think things through very deeply. So I have a very, very, very deep inner world.
A deep diver. We love deep divers.
Deep diving, and very difficult to be a writer if you don't have that. I tend to think that they come hand in hand. So, but part of the job description. I say job because it's not really a job, it's a purpose and a calling. But yeah, it's definitely a part of who I am.
Pretty cool. All right, so here's your tough one, Emily. Tell us something funny or silly or embarrassing.
Oh, this is like the story that I've never told. I should actually start telling it from stage because it's freaking hilarious and it would break the ice. It's so embarrassing. Not a fan of embarrassing stories, so this is why it's so good. In fact, I dislike embarrassing moments, like social moments, so much that I skip past those parts in movies, just so we're clear. I'm like, oh, so awkward. Fast forward by 10 seconds. I can't watch it. So it's like one of those. So before I started my business, I was age 19, so that's what, 17 plus years ago. And I was working in retail selling books. And so my beautiful mum, Mama Ray, who has also been on your show, she had, I think, gotten me a job. And so I was working in retail doing casual hours. So I was, you know, probably 18 or so years old, 18, 19 years old. And we used to sell like the overflow books that didn't sell in the big stores. So we would go, it would be like a stand in the middle of the mall and all the books would be discounts. So anyway, we were in this store set up east of Brisbane, and this one day an older woman comes in. I say older, she was probably 60 something, but bearing in mind I was just a teenager. So she comes in and she was quite softly spoken and she asked me for, because people come in and they ask you, do you have any books on this topic? She came in and she asked me for a book on insects. That is not what I heard though. What I heard her say was, do you have any books on sex? And I'm thinking to myself, that's a really strange thing for you to ask me. So here's me, bless my cotton socks, trying to answer this and like pointing out some books. It was horrifically embarrassing when I figured out what she actually said. I was like, oh my God, will the floor just open up and swallow me? It was really bad, like really bad. I was like, oh, I can't run. I can't hide. I can't escape from this, like, this horrifying moment. So lesson in listening really carefully and confirming. Can you just repeat that for me? Oh God, it was really embarrassing. Really quite funny and very, very, very embarrassing. Good story, that one. As soon as it was the first thing that popped in my head, I went, oh yeah, this is a good one. So oops. Yes.
What did she say? What did she say?
She actually didn't really say anything, but she did look at me with an extremely judgmental expression on her face, like as if to say, "Where did your mind go, young lady?" I was like, crap, crap, I can't escape this. This is, you're gonna make a judgment on me. As being ditzy, and I was quite, I think, blonde still at that point actually, and I was like, oh God, she's just made this judgment on me. I can't escape it. It's quite funny though. It's a very, very good story in hindsight. Oops. Yes.
But they're so humanizing, these stories. I mean, that's why we ask them, right? Because everyone can relate to them. And
they're priceless.
But there's always usually a really good nugget at the end. And
yeah.
This was, could you repeat that, right? Like,
yeah, could yeah. It was funny that only just occurred to me as I said it out loud. I went, you know what I could have done? I could have actually just said, do you mind confirming that for me? Because when she said it, I was thinking in my head, okay, does she want educational stuff for her kids? But I also love that I just leapt to the challenge anyway. I was like, I'm going to do this. And she's looking at me like, what? Because we had all kinds of things. We had like kids explanation books. We had like novels. I'm like, wow, she got fire in her still. Yeah, no, that's not what she was looking for. Okay, she was probably buying something for her grandson who was probably like 6. I'm like, oh God, this is so bad. So yeah, you're right. I could have absolutely said, do you mind repeating that for me? It's priceless. I love it.
It is. So you do a lot of things, right? You write, you coach, what fills you up? How do you fill your tank so you can do what you do?
Well, I love that. That's a really beautiful question. So I obviously, when you love what you do actually does fill your cup. So there is definitely, I mean, goosebumps, unquestionably have had many, 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 many moments, an uncountable amount of moments of fulfillment, satisfaction, like your brain goes, oh yeah, that was really good, but fulfillment of the heart too. So the fulfillment of the heart that really like, oh, I really created magic with that person, or that is an amazing idea. I get quite a great sense of awe when a fabulous idea pops in, or a beautiful piece of writing comes through, or I have a breakthrough with a client and or I get their testimonial saying, wow, that was really profound. I get lots of, like, my cup is like constantly being poured into. And I actually tend to, and I think this is actually quite a good piece of advice for women. Let's talk about this, is that we do tend to shrink ourselves, I think. We tend to err on the side of minimizing ourselves. And so one of the things that has helped me so much with building my confidence and knowing my worth and staying in that frequency of my worth and the acknowledgement of that is that I take screenshots and photos of pretty much every testimonial, messages, comments, things that come in, and I document it for myself. So I have hundreds of them. And it's when you collect that, there's just no way, like, I can't believe that story anymore, that, oh, I don't have value to offer, or I'm not extraordinary. That is so far gone. Like, it's because I can't argue with the proof. And so, and it's just, this is how I showed up in the world. And then this is the ripple effect that it created. This is the feedback. This is the moments of connection and love on both ends. There's so much of that I just feel humbled instead of worrying about whether I'm enough. I'm sitting in this, well, life is so freaking beautiful, and it's the way I'm choosing to show up, to live authentically, that really does fill my cup. So there is that inside my workspace, which is, 80% of my life. So, and I love that. So that is a big part of it. That outside of that, of course, there's things I do that fill my cup, like spending time with people that I love. But one of my favorite things, and I think actually sometimes the things that fill our cup are really quite simple. I call them like keys to fulfillment. So, and actually I have created like a little one-page worksheet, and it was basically just has bubbles on it. You just write in the bubbles, well, what are your keys to fulfillment? So when I was going through depression at age 19, I came out the other side, and I'd made my commitment. So I'd drawn the line in the sand. I am going to create an extraordinary life. I want to help other people do the same. I then thought, well, it was kind of a logical thought. Well, if I want to have an inspiring life, then I probably need to fill it with things that inspire me. So I wrote a list, and I wrote a list of the things that fill my cup. And the first thing I wrote on that list was city lights. I don't know why. I'm like very much a celestial woman of the stars. I love lights. I don't know what that is. I mean, I'm not the only person that would say that, but I feel very spiritually moved. So it was city lights, and it was things like personal development and writing. And I wrote a list of probably 15 or 20 things, and they're on my whiteboard today. That list is still the same. So as it was 20 years ago nearly. So I find that quite amazing that the things that fill my cup haven't changed at all. I may have found some new things, but the fundamentals are still the same. So yes, inside my work, there's lots of fulfillment, but then there's also things that I do. If I just feel a little bit creatively tapped out, or a little bit like I just need to get back to myself and, disengage from my work for a second, and just, not that I can ever really do that, but just take a step back and breathe. And I will go into the city usually. I always laugh because my man I call him a mountain man, because he's like, the further into nature, the happier he is. He's so content when he's in nature. Me, I go straight to the heart of the city. So, and that's perfectly fine, because that's how he recharges on his own. So I go right into the city. I put music in my ears. I get in my gym gear, Lululemon tights or whatever, and I just walk and I absorb and listen to music, and I feel humanity, and that fills my cup like more than most things. So it's quite simple and a little strange, but it works. So there's lots there. As you can see, I have lots of things filling my cup. Not very often I feel like my cup is empty. This would be a good time to have a sip of water. Not intentional, I promise. The very corny pun.
It's beautiful what you're saying. There's a few things about it. First, it's like that you have a list, right? That because so often we forget, right? It's like, and we need the list when we are.
Yeah, and put it in your own face so you see it. Put it on your office, like in your office, and somewhere where you see it. And it's almost in a way, it's also almost a burnout recovery plan. Like if you feel like you're quite burned out, you've got a million different things going on. And I call it, I have a thing around burnout where I call it a rostered emotional day off, and I call it a redo for short. So it's an acronym. So your rostered emotional day off would be the day where you go, I'm going to unplug. I'm going to let people know I'm gone. I'm gone for the day. And then you would look at your keys to fulfillment and go, which ones of these are going to make the biggest difference? Is it a conversation with somebody? Is it going into the city and just walking around? Like what is that? Is it a day in nature? And then you go and you make a concerted effort. I'm going to fill my cup because I'm no good to the world if I'm not good inside myself, basically. So yeah. it does work. And I know myself so well that I don't really need reminders. It then becomes a matter of recognizing when your cup is empty. And that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole other conversation.
You need to get, when you're fraying at the seams, you need to be able to recognize those signs, go, yeah, I'm not okay today. Like, or I need something personally, like to remember that you are first and foremost a woman. And then you are mum, mentor, author, you're all of that secondarily as an expression of that. So it's quite deep.
But it is that, right? It's like, yes, sometimes we need the reminders, but sometimes we also need the awareness of, okay, now, right? Or maybe we need people around us to remind, to and that will take another step of awareness to actually make a list of the signs of when we're getting there, so we can let people around us to support us. And the other thing that I loved is that you have that have screenshots of your testimonials. I remember a few years back when I was set to do something quite challenging, which was cleaning out my dad's apartment after he passed.
Oh, yes.
And I asked my friends to either record or write down who I am for them, so that in case I forget, I can go and listen.
Absolutely.
And that's what it reminds me of, right? It's so it's like, so you can, oh, I am that person. Oh, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah. And it really does help, like when you have those, we need to be reminded, because lots of stuff happens and it's like, hang on, come back into yourself, come back into your heart, come back into like the truth of who you are. So then if somebody does give you criticism or they argue with you or whatever, you have the context to go, you just don't know me. Like you actually just don't know me, because check this out. So if someone said, like, you don't really care about your clients, I'm like, oh my God, I have like hundreds of testimonials that prove the opposite. And so it's quite, and it's not really about proving anything. It's just about a self-awareness, a self-knowing, and also a self-love and self-respect. So yeah, there's absolutely that. I mean, at one point, because I have a vision board like perpetually, my vision board this year is scary because it's so potent, and the way things are manifesting is actually really intense. So I eye it off on the wall, but I also have a vision board, but I also one year printed out lots of different screenshots, and I made like a second vision board, and it was about that exercise for me. I'd been working with a wealth coach, was about realizing that every action matters, because I had this sort of feeling that I do all this stuff, but it never seems to be enough, even though that wasn't true. That's how I was feeling. And I was like, oh my God, I'm working so hard. Like, when will it just add up and click together? Just, I don't know if it was impatience or I was just tired, probably fraying at the seams a little. And so my wealth coach and I came up with this idea. It's like, well, what are we going to replace that thought with? We're going to replace it with a thought, every action I take matters greatly. And then I just had this vision of having these screenshots and things. I have them in my life plan all the time, but I put them on the wall, and it was so inspiring because it was just so many beautiful comments, everything from I really love this product or something that you created, through to acknowledgements of my character and the way that I've been living authentically and how that had inspired someone else to do the same. That's actually how I define success. Everything else, like how much money you make or how many people I reach, for me is about the love inside it. It's like, because to create those moments of magic where I know I touched that person's life in a way that moved them or was just what they needed in that moment. So there really is so much to be said, I think, for keeping those testimonials in one like concentrated space, so that when you feel crap about yourself or you're questioning yourself, you can look at these and get behind yourself. You can let your higher self get behind your human self That's a cool expression, by the way. Get your higher self behind your human self and say, you have freaking got this. You have nothing to quit. You have nothing missing from you. You have everything that you would possibly need to do the thing that is coming next on your journey. So I think sometimes when we're thinking about, well, this is my dream and this is my goal, we think that we have to do it all simultaneously, but it never happens that way. All you need is the next step, and that it will never not be true. Like, so it's, do you have it in you to take the next step? Always. You're never missing that to take that next step. So that's helpful advice, because otherwise you go, oh my God, how am I going to go stand on the stage with 10,000 people? Why don't you stand on the stage with 100 first in the audience and do that? That might be your next step.
Or
20 or 2. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we got to let ourselves grow into who we want to be and what we want to do. So yeah, it's quite.
And that's a whole other interesting point. Sorry, Christine, I know you wanted to say something.
Christine is like jumping at the bit here. She's like, I gotta ask stuff.
But we have this tendency of, we see somebody and we're like, well, but they're there.
Right.
And we don't get that for them to get there, they needed to take all those steps, right?
Correct.
So yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, it sounds really simple to say this, but where you end up is not where you started ever. It's not, and that's an internal thing as well as an external world thing. Like I've heard quite a few times from different business mentors who had gotten to $1 million a year or 2 million. They say that the most profound thing about that is not crossing that threshold of $1 million a year, for example. It's who you became in the process. And it sounds cliche, but that makes so much sense to me, that it's who you have grown into. And so when we're looking at things like adversity or goals or dreams, is like, do you love the person that you're becoming? Also, the qualities that are being developed in you through that whole journey. And I go, yes. And that is perhaps the greatest accomplishment, is to develop one's character. Because then everything else comes from that. It's a ripple effect.
So good. So what made you who you are today? Or when did you take a stand for something that mattered? Or what was the biggest lesson you've learned?
These are all great questions.
You can it could all be the same, or you want to take one piece, or you want to take 2 pieces of it. It doesn't, however you want to take it all.
The one that resonates with me right now is the third one. And it's like, well, what is, I don't know if lesson is the right word, but it's like perhaps the greatest wisdom. You could call it a lesson. Because usually lessons precede wisdom. So the I think in all because I'm quite fascinated by what makes people tick, and how and why do sounds like people really create the life they want, and so many people seem to be struggling with it. What's the difference? So I'm fascinated with human potential. I'm fascinated with not just human potential, but human fulfillment, actually. So human potential kind of implies you're going to do huge things on the planet, but everybody has their own definition of that. It's also about fulfillment. So I'm very fascinated by that. And so I've studied, okay, what is it that, and I study my friends, I'm sure they know that. I'm sure we study each other. We're all self-development geeks. And so I study them and go, I wonder what's causing that in that person's life, like on a psychological level, or what is this going on in my life? Like, where is that, not a block, but where is that thing that's going to make the difference? And I'm perpetually fascinated with the human psyche and how to shift an outer reality through an inner world shift. I'm fascinated by that. I can't get enough of that in terms of my own growth and other people's. And so the biggest wisdom, or the greatest lesson that I've learned, that I have seen in motion and too much evidence to question it over the past 20 years, is that self-love, self-worth, self-respect is arguably the most important work for us to do in terms of creating the life that we want. I have not found something that is more profound than that. It's the taking down of the walls and the layers and the shifting of that inner self story and the illusion and the healing of whatever it is we're holding against ourselves. When you shift that, you cannot not experience a shift on the outside in your life. And so the reason that this resonates so deeply for me is because self-worth and finding that and discovering that and building robust self-worth, self-respect has been probably the hardest mountain I've had to climb. And it's internally that, it felt a lot easier for me, certainly in the earlier stages of my, conscious self-development journey or my personal growth journey, to love others for who they were than it was to love myself for who I was. It was like, well, there's shame there, and there's moments of rejection and stuff around sexuality and relationships. And you know, areas where I felt like I had the A grade student mentality. And if I do anything less than an A, I suck, you know? And so it was there's been a lot of healing and work for me in building that solid base on the inside, like a very strong frequency that not a lot of things can mess with. And I wouldn't say I have the strongest self-worth. Not that it's not a competition, you can't really measure it, but I look at the things that are manifested in my life and I can feel the self-love and self-worth that underpins that. And it's quite like a beautiful relationship, and having work that I absolutely love. And, you know, I think a lot of that does come down to our internal relationship, because your world, your outer world and your life, they don't lie. They're constantly mirroring your self-worth. So it's just, you know, to have that self-love, because there's such a poor association with this, that to love oneself is to be narcissistic. Those are not the same thing. I actually would like to very clearly state, not the same thing. That is, you can have self-love. It just is. You're just being in that space. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're taking from others or, you know, whatever. And it's okay to put yourself first, and it's okay to displease other people. Like, it's, you know, I know we were having that conversation about with women, oh, we need to be the good girl, or we need to, you know, please other people. Go, no, it's just, you know, so self-love, it's funny, it doesn't necessarily mean you're narcissistic or arrogant. So I'd like to change the definition around it, so that, you know, what if self-love was giving yourself permission to have a career that you enjoy? What if self-love is, you know, creating more financial wealth so you can take better care of your family? Like, that's just you being loved. That's not anything else. So for me, that would be the biggest lesson. I very much learned that through the work of Dr. John Demartini. He has some of the most profound self-development work I've discovered on the planet. He's quite incredible. And he has a beautiful quote. He says, no matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. And if you can truly comprehend that, then your life gets supercharged. And it's quite extraordinary what can show up when you love who you are, because then you say, well, I like to be around me. And if you like being around you, other people will like being around you. And if you want to hang out with you, other people want to hang out with you. And if you value you, then the world values you. And it just ripples out from there through every aspect of life. So for me, that's huge. I do also, side note, do believe in clearing emotions like bitterness, anger, resentment, you know, anger, grief, all of that. I think that's wise to clear your stuff around, particularly family and friends. But that self is like the big piece, I think, for me anyway.
And it's usually the most challenging too, right? So
yeah, because like, to turn it inward and go, well, because the thing is, I go, why are we so hard on ourselves? Why is that? And my theory is that it's because you're with you 24 hours a day. You see everything. So the challenge is like, you know, it's quite easy to look at someone else and see the highlight reel of their life, or to see them in small doses, or to see them in their strength and go, I love that person for who they are. But when you are with you, you see everything. You are with you 24 hours a day. So someone goes, oh, you're extraordinary. Guaranteed your brain probably listed all the reasons that you're not. They go, because you're going, yeah, but I've got evidence to the contrary. So when we're talking about like capturing those testimonials, that's evidence to confirm that. And maybe you can still, I was gonna say, you can pick your nose and be extraordinary. You just have a human body, right? That those things don't make you not extraordinary. So it's like redefining that. Go, you know what? Yeah, I curse sometimes, and not sometimes, daily. I curse, and you do all those things, and I have those moments where I get tired. Yes, I get pissed off if the neighbors are playing the music too loud. I'm human. Like, I'm human. That is the extraordinary, is that you have, your higher self and your human self working together all the time. That is extraordinary. So yeah, there's definitely some reframing, I think, to do around that.
And it reminds me of a quote I keep on my fridge that says, you can be happy and have problems. They're not mutually exclusive.
I love that. Yeah, it's like, because people, oh, you must be so inspired like all the time. No, like, or you must be up and poised and like, you know, in this beautiful state frequently. Yeah, no, just literally, and I'll be okay with it. Talk to my mom, talk to my man, talk to one of my girlfriends who's I'm really close with. Ask them. They'll tell you the truth. They'll tell you that sometimes I have days where I'm like, whoa, I am winning today. Like, whoa, red carpet unfolding in front of me. Everything's incredible. And then I have days where I feel like if I touch something, it's going to fall apart. And, you know, so how do we journey through? The journey is through all of that. So we to not define yourself based on problems, right? Your problem is not who you are. I say your current situation is not who you are. It's just where you are. It's like, so you can do something about that. So isn't it funny how it's like pin the tail on the donkey, but we're sticking stuff on ourselves and associating things. Go, well, I must suck, and you got all these stuff, and you're layering yourself up with these judgments. Go, how about you strip it back and remember that you're a soul in a body? Okay, great. Okay, let's peel everything else off and change the story. So I love that. Yeah, you can be content and have problems in your life. Because if you ask me, okay, what's going well in your life, I'll tell you. And if you want to know my problems, I'll tell you those too. And that's self-love, to go, I got both, and that's life. And I love all of it, because as Mitch Horowitz said, we don't get challenged, we remain emotional children. Oh, what a line. Like a beautiful line. Like because we do. It's the leaning into that's how we become. That's how we unleash the extraordinary that's already in us. So it's profound. Don't love that. It's a great line. Nice reminder.
Well, what I hear also is like it's giving ourselves grace, right? Giving ourselves like honor ourselves as we would our best friend, right? If our best friend would come with something like that, you wouldn't tell them, oh, really? You would just say, oh, wow, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Try again, try
your
again
friend
in half
says
an
to you,
hour.
yeah, your friend goes, oh, I'm having a challenging day, da 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 da. And your friend goes, oh, there must be something wrong with you. You're having another one of those? You don't say that. They go, take some rest, take a step back. I love you. I believe in you. You've got this. Well, that's if you have decent quality friends. That's probably what they'll say. As opposed to, man, you're a mess in the head. I mean, if one of my friends said that to me, I'd probably wet myself laughing, because I go, you know what? Some days it feels like that.
Yeah, no,
but I'm not.
I think it's both, because I will tell, like, I will sometimes when I have conversations say, wow, okay, how's that working out for you, right? But
Yeah. Are you enjoying that?
It's not in a bad way, right? It's just really inside of, hey, I'm all in your court, right? And we don't treat ourselves that way. Sorry,
No.
Christina. Go ahead, Christina.
No, I was going to say that I think sometimes some of the things you will say is to help shift the perspective, right? Like, so say if I'm stuck in whatever problem I have in the moment, one of my favorite things Martina will go is, how long do you want to stay there?
I love that question.
And sometimes I'm like,
so good.
if I'm really stuck, I'll be like, fuck off. Like, I want another day. I'll talk to you tomorrow. Maybe I'll be like 5 minutes. I'll call you back. Let me go take a walk, and I need 5 more minutes of this, and then I'm ready to let it go.
Yeah.
And the first time she asked me that, I was like, fuck off. Like, really? But it's so powerful. It's so powerful.
It's so good. You go, I actually just want to give me 30 seconds. And sometimes I'll say, and it's beautiful because you get what my man would call behavioral flexibility, where you can shift your state. Like, how quickly are you going to allow your state to shift? So be like, sometimes I'll say and I can feel a rant coming on, like something is really pissing me off. And I'll say usually to Mama Ray, usually to my mom, because, we're thick as thieves, we're very close. I'll say to her, this is my rant, give me 30 seconds. And I'll go, da 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 da. And she'll go, actually, she's never not agreed with me. It's because I'll be like, if there's da da da, okay, I'm done now. And I'm like, I'm done with that. But then, so there's little things like that where it's, otherwise I'm holding it in. It's like, don't know, holding it in, don't think that's super healthy. But yeah, then you have those days where you go, oh my God, I'm so, like, I feel so vulnerable and so sensitive and like so emotional. Go, I'm just going to hold you in that. Like, it's okay. So then my man's particularly good at responding to my state. He can feel when I'm like off. He's like a unicorn. It's amazing. And he'll go, get in the car, because we're like half an hour from Mount Tamarind. It's beautiful. If you know Gold Coast hinterland, it's gorgeous. So there's like cafes and it's mountain vibe and it's rainforesty. It's beautiful. It's like half an hour from here. So he'll be like, he's cute. He'll be like, he's a 20, get in the car, go to the mountain kind of thing. And so it's like, well, how long do you want to sit in it? And go, well, I just need a day. Like, I need a day. So again, my rostered emotional day off, the redos, I go, I'm going to take the day and I'm going to sit in it for a day because there's something here. So, it's just it's quite beautiful question. Go, well, how long do you want to sit in that? Go, well, you know what? Because we sometimes do that. We hold on to suffering, things that cause us to suffer. And I call it holding on to the rock. It's like, well, you can see, and you see some people, they're like cuddling this rock, and it's like a safety blanket. Like, they don't know that they're carrying it, and they go, oh, I'm so tired, I'm so burned out. It's like, have you seen the rock that you're carrying? Have you seen it? Like, there's a boulder on your shoulder and you're carrying this thing. So it's there, and we sometimes do that. Go, why are you fighting for the thing that you don't really want? It's like you're telling yourself that you have to hold on to it, and then it becomes a comfort of some kind, and it's quite strange how we do that sometimes. So I've made that kind of commitment. It was like, number one, I don't suffer in silence. If something's bothering me for more than a day, I have a golden rule. I got to tell somebody. And so even just sometimes I'll say it out loud, and as soon as I say it, I go, oh, that's really silly, I'm done. I don't know why I was worried about that. And then other times, you know, it's obviously, it can be something bigger. And we're go, okay, I actually need some help, because we're not here to do it on our own. But I sort of made that golden rule, like if I don't do that, because I like a lot of people have and have had past tense a propensity to hold on and stew over things and not say anything and feel that, oh my, you know, I can't tell somebody because then I might be weak or whatever. It's like now I jump at the chance to go, I cannot wait to ask a friend for the help, or to tell someone about this and go, this is cool. And that's actually partly how we share life as human beings. We go, this is what makes life so interesting. But we do tend to, I think, yeah, we tend to hold on to the rock and go, oh, okay, I'm holding on to the rock. So I said at an event last week, is like, drop the rock and open the door to all the things that the universe wants to give you, that wants to provide for you, like the blessings, miracles, opportunities, possibilities, ideas, love, everything. And, you know, but you got to drop the rock to make some space for it. So sort of a nice reflection. I got to tell myself, don't hold on to the rock. It's like, what is the rock you're holding on to right now? It's like, are you done with that? Yeah, okay, I'm done with it. All right. How long do you want to hold on to that for? So yeah, it's good. Amazing reframe.
Well, and the other thing that I hear in what you're saying is that there's like, if you don't share, it becomes your best kept secret, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes.
And the moment you speak it, it's
Yep.
like, it's out there, it's done. It's there's really nothing much. And sometimes there's some work to be done, but many times it's done, right? Rather than, oh, I cannot tell anybody because I'm such a bad person. Oh my God, what will they think? Or oh no.
Yeah.
And the moment it's out there, it's done. So
yeah, and then it's what I find quite beautiful is that I think I personally have experienced life gives us that, we're talking about that next step. Life gives us the answer, the next step, the next thing that we need is usually very close around us, and if not, it's in the intuition. So I had an experience probably 2016, somewhere in there, where I was having a problem with something in and around business and finance, and my company was still quite new. So I was still learning to do all the business finances, which is different than being like an individual, right? It's it was a learning curve, steep learning curve for me at the time. So, and I was stewing over this thing for probably 6 months. Like I was stewing over this, like, oh, I can't figure this out. And I was having basically a fear of growth, because if I get into growth, then what happens with tax? And I was literally, and then I decided one day I would tell my friend, completely forgetting, so he had known me for a long time, completely forgetting he used to be a trained accountant. He answered my question in like 2 seconds. I went, oh my God, I feel so silly for worrying about that. Like the amount of energy I put into that. He goes, oh, just do this. I was like, no freaking way. And I think that was the day I fell in love with getting help. I was like, oh my gosh. There are so many amazing people in this world that have answers to things, that can give us perspectives and insights. And so sometimes I'll do this game where I say, if I feel going through a phase, like if you're going through a phase where you feel really flat, you've hit a plateau, you're struggling, you're like, you just can't really, you're not flowing forwards. I say have 5 conversations, and you look for 5 different types of person. So you look for somebody that knows you really well, that can remind you of who you are, and they love you. Ideally, someone that's known you for a long time and has seen your growth. Then you look for someone who's really practical and strategic. So somebody that can look at your problem and go, well, why don't you just do this? Then I think it's wise to talk to someone that inspires you. Someone that purely just loves you, like they just think the sun shines out of you. And I don't remember what the 5th one was. So there you go. It's like, but you have these, do fill in the blank, right? So you're looking for, I'm sure it will pop in at the most inconvenient hour later. It's like, I haven't talked about that in a long time, but you're looking for particular people that can, you know, that they just get you, and they can give you these different perspectives, so that when you are holding on to that rock, or you go, I don't want to suffer in silence anymore, the guy really needs some help, you look for these types of people in your life. And sometimes you get three of those things in one person, and sometimes you'll get like 2 or 3, but you're looking for these different aspects. Like someone can give you a practical solution, it can change your life. You go, oh, I don't know why I was so emotional. And then there's someone else, like maybe an emotional healer, or someone that can help you with the healing side of it. And then there's, maybe a mentor that can give you some guidance, and then someone that's known you for a long time, or you just go and sit with someone who really loves you. And it makes such a big difference. So we're like not here to be in this on our own, and yet we so often think that we've got to do it on our own. I don't know where that comes from.
It's part of being human, I think. So, Emily, if you had a magic wand and could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
I'm going to say self-awareness. self-awareness, because that leads to so many blessings and so many opportunities. Because I originally think, would I give them the quality of like knowing one's purpose? I mean, no, I give them a self-awareness, because knowing one's purpose in life comes from that space anyway. So if you have that self-awareness, then you'll have more emotion, your emotional intelligence will be higher, which is going to benefit your life immensely. It'll help you with relationships, help you with selling, business, whatever it is that you want to do. But self-awareness also is very good for mental, emotional, physical health, because now you have, like, you can have self-awareness, and self-awareness also enables you to do things like eat a particular food and notice how your body feels afterwards. So then you can create better wellness with it. It enables you to respond to yourself and your sensitivities and how you are on a day-to-day basis. It also helps you with answering life's big questions, like, why am I really here? So to me, self-awareness, like the seat of so much, if you can cultivate that. There's a beautiful quote, can't remember who it's by, it might be Schopenhauer, said the study of self is a study of all things. And it deepens your relationship with life. You know, it really does. And that's when life gets to be a lot of fun. Yeah, sometimes there's a lot of deep healing in that as well. But what's on the other side of that is totally worth it.
Emily, tell us about a time you took a chance on love. Not necessarily romantic love, although it can be romantic love. But tell us about a time you took a chance on love.
I feel like we're going to close this interview out with another embarrassing story, because it's kind of an embarrassing story. So I'm going to tell you about how my man and I got together, to how Michael and I got together. So I had met Michael when he was still married and I was still with someone else. So we'd met briefly. We kind of met, but we didn't really meet each other. We'd met at a D-Martini event, and it was like, oh, this is Michael, da-da-da, like mutual friends of friends. And then it was about nearly 2 years later, I was done with my relationship. He was signing divorce papers, so they were like done. And they were kind of already separated at that point. But so then I had met him again, actually, at one of my mum's events. So she was doing cooking and food, and Michael decided to show up for some reason, even though my mum had been, which she told me, by the way, in hindsight, she'd already thought he would be a good partner for me, but she didn't say anything. She just kind of let me figure it out. So she kept inviting him to events, thinking, oh my God, they're going to make a really good couple. Like, he's more who she should be with. Yes, thanks, Mum. She was also right. Anyway, don't tell her I said that. We'll see if she watches this and she'll hear me say it. But so then we'll give it 2 years later, Michael and I had reconnected at one of Marie's events. He was thinking, because I'd done a lot of work with authors, like a big part of my career so far was work and has been working with authors. I ran a book publishing company for 10 years, lots of coaching with authors, helped D-Martini with one of his books. I had a background for that. So Michael was thinking in his head, he had me in the professional box. He's thinking I'm going to talk to Emily about like help me getting my book done, right? So I wasn't thinking that. I could already tell from an initial conversation, he's not a client. I could sense that. I was checking him out. He didn't know this. So when we went for a chai, because I don't drink coffee, I've never had a cup. So when we went for a tea or a chai together, he talked to me for like an hour. I'm sitting there checking out his arms, looking at his face. I was checking him out, and I thought to myself, I actually like this guy. I was just feeling his energy, basically. I was feeling his energy, and I went, wow, he has quite a nice energy. And then he received a phone call from his 16-year-old daughter. She's now 20, but she was 16 at the time. And she was crying. And it was the way he spoke to her on the phone was so beautiful. I could really feel his heart. I went, this man has a beautiful heart, and he does. So I thought, all right, I have got to find a way to tell him that I like him intimately without losing my dignity professionally. How do I take myself out of the professional box and put myself into the personal one and let him know that I'm available? Like, how am I going to do this? So, and this sounds horrendously corny whenever I repeat it to anyone, because they ask how we met. I tell them the story. I go, ugh, it's cringeworthy. But in the moment, it wasn't. So I just want to reframe that. So this was my chance for love, because I had to put myself out there. I was a little bit like terrified. Never mind the selling a package to a client. That stuff is easy. It was the personal. It's like, this is personal. He may not like me at all. So what I said to him was, and I quote, I said to him, my feminine energy really likes your masculine energy. That was what I said. And it sounds horrendously bad in hindsight. I was like, the thing is, I genuinely meant it. I went, I, as a woman, I see now I get all mushy, right? Because it's so true, and it's still true today. as a woman went, I really resonate with who this man is and who he is. And I like him. I would like to explore this. So I didn't say, hey, baby, you want to, I didn't do that. I told him. And what's beautiful is, and you should have seen the look on his face. It was one of the most beautiful moments. He went, it was like, and he describes it like I was tuning in a radio. It was like I turned the dial and switched him to a different frequency. So it freaking worked. He goes, his face is like, oh, I was like, I wish I'd had a photo of it. It was priceless. And then then he got it and he totally shifted frequency. And we've been together 4.5 years. So, I mean, I got goosebumps. But I trusted my heart, because the truth is, in my heart, I knew, I could feel it, but I really had to overcome that. You know, how am I going to tell him? I didn't pre-think those words. That's just what came out of my mouth. But I had to take a chance. Like, I'm going to very boldly let that go, and because I want to explore something else with you. And we have had a truly beautiful relationship. It's been the most stable, probably definitely the most fulfilling. There's so much closeness, and it's a beautiful thing. So yeah, I kind of embarrassed myself just a touch. I just took a risk, but he didn't receive it as it was a weird thing to say. He went, yeah, I really get that. And then he looked at me differently, and and it was a beautiful moment. He looked at me like, oh, I really, okay. Oh, this is what we're doing. So, you know, it was beautiful timing. So there you go.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Courage to take a chance. Well, it was a great question. It's a fabulous question, but you're such a cheesy line. I roll my eyes at myself going, that is so cheesy. But I really didn't feel cheesy when I said it. So.
And it is such a,
your
it is
intuition,
such,
right?
and what you said, right? It's such a big deal to allow yourself to be vulnerable, right?
Yes.
And
also it was like woman
everywhere.
putting herself to a man. Sometimes I think traditionally we expect, oh, the man is going to go, oh, she's beautiful, I really want her. I'm going, he's got so much respect for me professionally. He wouldn't, even if he was thinking it, he probably wouldn't. And so then I had to just let him know, in a way, I'm okay if you pursue me, like, it's fine. It's kind of sweet, actually. It's like, and that's quite a big thing, because I don't do that very often. I was like, I'm going to carefully select this one. And because I was looking for something more. I was looking for a real partnership. And yeah, it's really quite sweet. Christina, what were you going to say?
I was gonna say that you trusted your intuition, right?
I did.
Like those words weren't prepared. It just all came together in that moment, and you felt it and trusted and took that action. But you also felt his energy, so you kind of knew. You kind of knew it was probably going to be welcomed, I'd say.
Yeah, it was you know, and at that point I'm like, I don't know that much about this man. And you know, I say he annoys me 5% of the time, which I think is pretty normal. You got to have a bit of that in a partnership to make it interesting, and I'm sure vice versa as well. But it's just yeah, it was a partnership. And when I really like him. He's fiery but grounded, and I'm fiery but airy. So we have that really nice mix. And I guess in that moment I felt so the nugget in that is the courage. Yes, but the courage to put yourself out there. But I felt something. I saw something that I wanted. I felt something that I wanted. I was like, if I don't ask, I'd probably kick myself. And like, if I don't want to live like that. I want to live boldly and go, okay, like, all right, I'm just going to see what happens. And I think as a woman, it does help to know that you're a package, like that you have a lot to offer, because the truth is you do. It doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, you have gifts and beautiful things that you can share in context of the world, certainly, in terms of business, definitely, but in terms of intimate partnership. And I think sometimes with women, we're like, I need to chase a guy. No, you don't. It's like, no, you actually are a queen, and you will have a king of some kind. And it's just a vibrational thing. It's not meant to be corny. And it's just the like, I have so much to share. And so if you can see that in yourself, you go, well, I literally have a list in my life plan of the things I can offer my partner. And I had that awareness. I'm like, and it's not you'll be sorry if you miss out on me. No, I'm not necessarily easy either. I can tell you where I'm difficult and where I'm not. And, you know, the blessings, but I sort of had that. So I think that self-love, which we talked about, that self-love was there. But mostly I just in that moment felt it and just led from love, basically. And he responded really beautifully. Worst case scenario, I don't know, is he probably would have been polite and said thanks, and you know, that would have been the end of it. But it certainly was not the end of it. It was the start of something lovely. So it worked really beautifully. So if only we did said, okay, well then we take that courage and apply that to all areas of life, then what happens? Deep thought.
Yeah.
Yes, which is it's a moment by moment thing. You don't suddenly go, oh, I'm going to put courage everywhere. No, you just apply courage to whatever's in front of you at that moment. So.
And you start in the area that's easiest, and then you can tackle the next one because you can see that you can. So
yeah, you go, oh, I didn't die. Oh wow, I did this thing and I didn't die. Like I stood on stage, or I went on a podcast, or I published my book, and oh, actually people really liked it, and that actually got some great stuff into my life. I might try this again. So, and you just never know. You just never know what will come.
Yeah, and you actually practice the quality that you want to give people, like that self-awareness, right? Beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you for sharing that. So last question, Emily, what are you most proud of? What do you consider your biggest accomplishment?
I love this question. I am consider my biggest accomplishment my immense courage to turn my life around by a long shot. I mean, I publish books. It gets me quite emotional because I was just talking to one of my team members about it this morning, talking about where I came from, and I think that my determination, like I'm very stubborn, my determination and persistence to not give up on that dream inside my heart, to not give up on that. And then what happened in the wake of that, for me, is by far my greatest accomplishment, to be able to say that I was near suicidal and wanted to end it all and didn't know what I was going to do, and to then take the fire that was within that darkness, like to take that fire and to focus on that instead of all the reasons I couldn't, get myself goosebumps. And I was stubbornly persistent, and I'm still stubbornly persistent, and actually still very much driven by that today, because sometimes when I thought about, I don't know, throwing in the towel on something, or I don't know, business gets tricky or whatever, and I go, oh my God, I'm just going to go pack shelves at the local supermarket, which by the way would probably be quite therapeutic for my brain. But and I think about doing it, and then I think, not present tense, past tense. Sometimes think about doing it literally just for some like time out doing something else that I just don't have to think much. Of course, I would be thinking all the time while I was doing it, but I don't know, it's just I just have this immense like memory of like, hang on a sec, but you promised yourself that you were going to have an extraordinary life. So you promise yourself that, and then I look at how much, how far I've come already, and what I've already done, and how many of my dreams, big and small, I've managed to fulfill. And I want to keep living in that. I'm so curious. So I would say that would be my biggest accomplishment, because it was anything but easy. Like it was not. It's all very well to go, oh my God, I was depressed and now I'm inspired. To go, wow, that is that is not an accurate version of that story, because even though it's the truth, it's so deep, and the amount of self-healing and the amount of difficulty and the tears and blood and sweat and tears and everything that's gone into that. And someone said to me, oh my God, like you're just really inspired and whatever. And I said, yeah, I worked really freaking hard on it. Like, how'd you get to where you are? It's like sheer persistence and love. Like, and that's the truth, so that's definitely my biggest accomplishment, is just that moment of healing, that transformation. It's quite, I find that in myself quite inspiring. So you come back, you have an amazing propensity to come back from something that's super challenging, and I've done that in multiple occasions, but that was the big one for me. So, and I think it's a great, because I am truly living proof of that, but it has to come from it within. If you don't have the fire in here, no chance. So yeah.
And it is you choosing over and over and over.
Correct. Every day, a daily commitment to the kind of life that you want, a moment by moment courage, a moment by moment, because sometimes I say with like self-love and courage, sometimes you find it and then you take the action. Sometimes you take the action and that's where you find it. It's like it's a day by day expansion, like a leaning into who you are and a living into who you are. That's how you create an extraordinary life. And if you just follow that, it's like your own inner compass. Keep following that courage and following your love and following your purpose. Keep following it. It will take you to amazing places, your place and path in the world, like that is carved out so beautifully for who you are, that you just, your jaw drops, go, that is so specifically me. It's so specifically my life. Like to look at your life and say, I carved this, I co-created this with the universe. This fits me so beautifully that it's humbling. Like that is a great accomplishment, I think, to be able to say that you lived authentically and you loved fully. Like that's, above all else, I think is amazing. Everything else is, one of my mentors used to say that house and cars, they're just bananas. Like it's just, that's not really what we're here for, although you may have that as well. So he was
that's bonus in a way.
Yeah, that's a bonus. It's just a bonus along the way. So
yeah. Beautiful. So you have a business, you have a thriving
I
business.
do.
Do you want to tell us about it? And if you have an offer, this is a place where you can share. And just for our listeners, just to know, it's all going to be in the notes, all the details about it. But
You can
just
follow
go
those
ahead.
links. Yeah, sure. So I am, as you can already tell, very, very devoted to helping people discover their purpose, helping them to define and design their dream life, to set out their goals, start creating a dream career. So for me, so if you just jump on my website, have a look at all the different programs. I have the Find Your Purpose journal, which is a really beautiful creation. It's a guided journal to help you dive into your purpose. We also have like a purpose bundle that has video programs associated with that. There's a Design Your Dream Life product. Everything is really affordable. For me, I want you to be able to start from anywhere, because I certainly wasn't made of money when I was 19. And I want you to be able to reach into that and say, you know, I want to create a life that I truly love. So for me, these are some of those keys. So there's also a free dream life planner on the website. So if you want to dive into the world of Emily, just go onto my main website, would be the best place to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
That's awesome. And thank you both for your amazing questions today, by the way.
Thank you so much for being here with us. It was such a pleasure. So many nuggets, right? Christina, anything you want to say before we end up this?
I just had a blast, and I thank you for playing and making it so much fun. You know, these questions can be difficult, and I'm just blown away each week with the level of authenticity and vulnerability that people share with us. We are really blessed to be able to spend this time with you, and we really are we're just the luckiest girls in the world. That's all I can say. Like,
I love it.
I'm just thrilled that this message just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I'm just excited about the ripples that this is creating in the world. And so thank you for being a part of that.
Thank you. It was, I love, what did you ask me right at the start? If you really knew me, then you would know I'm deep. Come on. This was a play space for me. I go, oh, you're asking such deep questions. And this is my universe. So the Emmyverse is my universe. So I absolutely love the topics of conversation. And I hope that the listeners and women will get a lot out of that, something that could shift your day to day or even shift your whole life. So I loved it. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing your magic with us.
Thank you.
And thank you, listeners out there, for being here, for listening. And as always, if you loved it, please leave us a review, please share, please follow us. And please always remember that you are extraordinary. You rock. Until next time, Christina.
Bye for now.